Hello and welcome to the EchoChamber podcast. My name is Tony Groves, and today we're going back to talking about disability and the fact that it's actually not an equal playing field. It's not even at all, guys. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, and Martin. You got back from the diggers, okay? Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all.
You're the only one who managed to. What was it? You were gone all by 9:30.
Yeah, home in bed, tucked up.
Well, at your age. Much more importantly, we're delighted to be joined in the Tortoise Shack by filmmaker, blogger, disability activist, Alannah Murray. Alannah, you have been through an ordeal just to get here.
Yeah, you could say that. My bus broke down in Blanchardstown, so then my pre-booked bus that I had to book 24 hours in advance. So then I got off the bus at Blanche, and then I told a lift with you.
It is something that I want to talk about immediately. The fact that you text me on Thursday and said, "Are we still on for Sunday? Because I need to book my bus in advance." And we did have Tom Cronin on, and he said if someone from a minority, an ethnic minority, or who was from a member of the LGBT community who said that they needed to book their bus 24 hours in advance, there'd be people out in the streets.
Oh yeah, there'd be uproar. Yeah, like it just wouldn't happen. Like, heaven forbid, disabled people can move freely in the country anymore. Like, basically, why they have to pre-book is because it wasn't designed to be accessible in the first place, because disability and design is just an afterthought, really. Like, they have to take out seats to accommodate one seat. Okay. Rather than just having the space there in the first place. So
it's you're the inconvenience.
Oh yeah, I'm the one that causes the rigmarole, not the people that designed them poorly in the first place.
Now, after talking to Susie Byrne a few weeks back, it struck me about this new bus system that they're trying to bring in, and I was wondering, that's a lot of connections. Will the rules change? Do people have to book every single connection along the way? How much thought has gone into people with a disability who have to use public transport in this? And I haven't heard anybody mention a thing about it. Not a thing about it.
Yeah, like, I have to say, I'm not exactly well versed on bus connects, but I know there are people that have voiced their concerns on access and stuff, whether it will be accessible, whether there'll have to be bookings made. To be honest, if I have to fight another public transport company, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get fired.
Well, let's bring it back to you, and let's stay away from bus airing for a few minutes. You made a TED talk called "Less Pedestals, More Platforms."
Yeah,
and it's a really I'd recommend guys look it up. It's very entertaining, as well as there's good insight, but you tell it in your own inimitable style.
Yeah, like, I wanted to see how many wheelchair jokes I could fit into one TED talk.
Yeah.
And I never shy away from my disability, because I can't hide it. It's a big old wheelchair, and I'm 21. Like, I'm full of the joys of life. I've exceeded my life expectancy by a few years.
God.
So I may as well have the crack.
Yeah.
Like, I may as well laugh about it. Like, it's a funny situation. Like, you get yourself into so many really unique squeezes, I suppose, like trying to, scam as many people in for free to a nightclub as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't know the cover charge of a nightclub, because I don't pay in nightclubs. That's a disabled perk, and I love it.
Yeah.
And stuff like, that kind of thing. And people talk about disabled rights, and, it's all very serious. Whereas I'm just like, do you know what? I just kind of want to be able to go out, make an absolute hames of my life, come home, accessibly go and get a chicken fillet roll in a newsagent's that for some reason has newsagents with steps in.
Yeah.
No sense. Yeah. Absolutely zero sense. Like, going to a nightclub, like, I've seen able-bodied people try and navigate steps. Like, it just doesn't work. Like, how anyone thought steps in a nightclub was a good idea is beyond me.
Yeah.
So, like, looking at the social aspect of disability and, trying to just go out and live as a 21-year-old and have fun and make whatever mistakes I decide to make. You know, I should be able to do that. I should still have the horror stories that, you know, people my age have that they're never going to tell their parents ever. You know, just go out and live. Just be. Like, sometimes existing in a space that isn't designed for you is the most rebellious thing you can do. Yeah,
well, I see that, but it goes back to the phrase that someone else said to us previously, Martin, that we're it's not that I have a disability quite often, it's that the world around me disables me.
Yeah.
So, you know, you go to a shop and there's steps into it and you're like, you know, I'm...
Who wants to go up steps to get chicken fillet roll?
Yeah. Nobody. Spicier plane though.
Yeah. Spicy.
There you go. But
I agree. Like, you look at the design of not even just shops, but bigger shopping space. Dundrum, for God's sake. It's awful. And for anybody, trying to navigate through Dundrum is awful.
Yeah, like even just the pure size of places. Like, bigger seems to be better in, like, modern society. That's not a joke, by the way. You know, all these massive spaces, and you're trying to, you know, push your wheelchair, you know, through it, and I'm like, you're in bits by the end of it. Like, who designed these things and who are they designing for? Like, obviously consumerism is a massive thing in Ireland these days.
Has been for about got quiet for about a decade there, but it was the national pastime pre-Celtic Tiger,
exactly.
And now it's back with a
bang.
Yeah.
So, like, these 3-floor, like, shopping centres, you know, that have, like, 500 different entrances. Maybe 200 of those entrances have steps in, you know, escalators, you know, rather than just putting a load of lifts everywhere. It just... No. The world at large is not an accessible place.
But then again, I did meet you in Blanchardstown, and there was people queuing around the corner for donuts.
That is very true. Like, they're going to need those escalators.
They're going to need a lot more lifts. It was. No, you're not wrong that we have got this these white elephants all over the country that we've built to shrines to capitalism, I suppose, Martin. Is
there an element that you feel that people with a disability who speak up are put on a pedestal only to be torn down again at some later stage?
Big time. Like, you can be made out to be, you know, this saviour. If you talk specifically on a certain issue, you know, people see you as that issue. But then if you come out and say something on something else, they're like, oh, I thought you were all about that, you know, why are you suddenly jumping, like, can I not have multiple interests, people?
Can you not just stay in your lane?
Yeah, exactly, stay in your lane, and I'm like, I'm on wheels, I can go to multiple lanes very quickly. But then I think the age now, the cancelling age that is on the internet, where if someone messes up, you know, they're cancelled automatically, and, you know, there's no room for mistakes these days, which, you know, as someone who is very vocal about multiple different issues, like, I'm always very aware, I suppose, of what I say, you know, because I don't want people to, like, come at me and be like, oh, you know, you can't say that, you know, you're cancelled now. And it's like, can I not just go out there and, like, try and make a difference, like, and also be human?
I think that's a great point, because I know it's not, and it's certainly not unique to people with disabilities.
No,
the idea where someone does something and we decide that from this day forward, everything else they say, even if it's a good point, is invalidated.
Yeah.
And it really does frustrate me greatly.
Okay, well, I'm going to put a slightly different slant on that, in that it's all very specific. You take Kavanagh this week. Does what he did in the past affect what he's saying now? Well, yeah, it does, actually. It does actually affect what he's saying now. And I suppose it depends very much on circumstance. For most of us, we've diverse issues, and look, I'm going to say it out loud, we're all entitled to be a prick once in a while. We are entitled to be a prick. You know, you just don't monopolise it. You know, that's the way...
He's literally saying, I'm 86% prick, and I sleep for 13%, so 1% I'm okay.
But I think we should own it. We should be allowed to be. I think this is sort of a very Puritan thread or a very Puritan theme at the moment, that if you do or say one thing that a majority disagree with, that you're screwed.
You're done for.
You're screwed. Now, I think a lot of it too is to do with your reaction as well. You say, so, fuck it. That's the way I feel. I think a lot of people are like,
or if you were wrong, be able to say, got it wrong. And that's okay. It's okay to get it wrong.
Yeah.
But the thing that kills me most is that at the moment, those who should really be considered, there should be a more considered position about what they're saying. They get rehabilitated and they're back in without any change of conscience, without the issue that caused their.
But that is privilege.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and apparently this morning, I just caught a little tail end of it that housing this morning came up on Marion Finucane, and there was a huge amount of white middle class privilege being exerted in that studio this morning, and I only caught the tail end of it. And they were talking about housing issues and that, but housing is another one of those issues where disability is just simply not considered whatsoever.
Yeah, like trying to get a house. Like I just graduated my undergrad and I'm going into postgrad.
Hang on. Can I say that she's doing her masters and she did so well she got a full scholarship. So there you go.
Oh, congratulations.
Anyway, I went looking for somewhere to stay, and student accommodation, there was a monopoly from a local estate agents.
Mm-hmm.
And they had bought up the accessible accommodation, and I think when I went to look at it first, I think I was in my third year of college, I think they wanted $1,500 of a deposit, then maybe 3.5 before Christmas, then another 2 after Christmas, and then a final installment then in May.
Right.
Disability is less than 200 quid a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am effectively trapped in my family home. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my ma, she does all my washing.
Shout out to the mum.
Shout out to ma. But I'd love to be able to just go out and, have my own space and, be able to move freely, like where I don't have to depend on my parents for a lift or anything like that, because like I live in the middle of nowhere and obviously transport links are not great to begin with rural Ireland, never mind disabled transport links. So housing, it has such a knock-on effect on everything. Like, if you're disabled and you're in the middle of nowhere, automatically you have to depend on maybe 3 different people. You have your parents, in my case, then you ring the company to book the bus, then you have to depend on the bus driver to show up. Well, even before that, you have to depend on whoever booked the bus to send it to head office to relay it. Like, it's a whole 6th degree of separation just to go from A to B.
And with that, then it goes. Keep repeating it all the time. That without your own front door, that you've a loss of dignity. If you've no front door, okay, people say, well, you're living at home, you're not homeless, but you're 21. Yeah. You want to be getting on with your life. You're a student. Yeah. I went to UCD and I was moving out. You know what I mean? I could have commuted every day, but I was moving out. I was gone. You know what I mean? And that was my privilege, I suppose, and I was able to get digs and accommodation and things like that. So there is a large part of life, sadly, that is not open. No. And that even now, I'm sitting here now and I feel anger when I see that.
And like people, what I found with disability is people don't think until they have to think. Like, bringing it back to nights out and stuff, obviously I'm a student, it's all I know. Booking a taxi. You can't, like, in Dundalk where I go to college, you can't get an accessible taxi past 6.
Okay.
In the evening. So, because they're like, I think there's like 2 in the whole town, and they do school runs. in the morning, so they're off the clock. And people are like, oh, you know, I didn't think of that. And like, try and teach a bunch of drunk students how to dismantle a wheelchair.
Oh, God.
Like, to get it into a regular taxi, or like to get me onto the minibus.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very lucky. I had the best friends in the world. You know, a taxi let me down during Rag Week, and I was carried onto a coach.
Right.
So I suppose that with disability, the kindness of people and the people that you surround yourself with is so important, and it makes inaccessible spaces more accessible. But obviously, like, the system needs to change.
It's that Susie B argument of we shouldn't be saying that it's great that everybody's out running marathons to buy a wheelchair when the state should be providing the damn wheelchair.
Exactly.
You know? And that is very true. We live in this culture now of
we've had to crowdfund for people's lives. Like, people's lives are dependent on strangers on the internet, on GoFundMe or whatever, and you know, if you don't have a platform to, you know, get that out there, you're done. Which
goes back to your TED talk about, you know,
exactly.
Let's not bring you in here and say, aren't you great?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I am great, don't get me wrong. But I want to be given a platform to talk about things rather than being given pats on the head, you know.
I'd love a few pats on the head. How about you?
Yeah, actually, do you know what? I take that back. Someone please pat me on the head. But, you know, it's that culture of making disabled people passive in discussions when, you know, we need to be at the forefront of anything that involves us. Like, I wrote my undergraduate dissertation on disability in the fashion industry. And kind of how people are like, oh, you know, there's like one or two models there, you know, aren't things like really improving? And oh, look, it's Paralympic time to, you know, wheel out the disabled people for our marketing campaigns. You know, and I looked at advertising, and disabled people are most visible around the time of the Paralympics. Like, you won't see them after that.
No, it doesn't surprise me.
I was talking to Lynn Boylan a while back, and Lynn was saying that she tries to class-proof legislation that comes through, and she really tries to class-proof legislation that comes through. Do we need somebody to disability-proof every piece of legislation that comes through? Is that where we're at? That you just can't rely on the government of the day to take it in? To know, they just need somebody to say, no, actually, if you make that very small change initially, you make that easier for so many thousand people.
I think we need to have more disabled people in government. The government, as it stands, is not worth its weight in cow dung when it comes to disability and, quite frankly, everything else. I don't think anything should be proofed. Like, I don't think there should be a need to proof. Like, I think we need a more socially aware government. Like, someone shouldn't have to come in and say, actually, do you know what? That doesn't really work for disabled people, or that doesn't work for other types of people. Like, you should know that already. You should be looking at your legislation and how you're drawing it up and saying, actually, as the legislator, you know, independently, what do I think of this? You know, we were the last country in Europe to ratify the UN Convention, and it was ratified without some of the...
Well, we ratified it on the basis that it wasn't enforceable.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the setup. It was like a code of conduct with no repercussions.
Yeah, it's like, and it's been flouted around by the government. Oh, we ratified it. No, you didn't.
We've got to remember too that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, you know, since the beginning of this as an independent state, they presided over the mass incarceration of people with disabilities. Yeah. The mass incarceration. Ireland was almost as bad as the gulags for the numbers incarcerated.
And it's happening again.
Yeah, I think it is. And it's more diverse in that it's spread into the community, but you're just as institutionalised. You can be just as institutionalised in a community.
Yeah. And like, it's, you know, they're sneakier about it now. Because they're like, oh, they've copped it now. So we have to get better at being scummy.
Yeah.
And we have to get better at, you know, discrimination and, you know, socialise it more.
Normalise it more.
Yeah, like make it seem like a good thing, you know, that we're helping these people and, you know, we're doing things good.
Well, that's one of the things around, so for carers, where they talk about this carers allowance and how that actually, in some cases, not all cases, but some cases, that's a trap.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and you know, but we talk about it, don't they have carers allowance? And it sounds nice and fluffy. Yeah. But it's not.
But like the amount of work the carers have to do, you know, it's their entire life.
Well, also there was the change to the way people with a disability could work. There was a time when if you had a disability, you could go to work and, you know, if you managed a full week, great. If you were off for a week because you couldn't manage a week, that was great too. You still got your disability, hung on to your medical card. Now you can't. And that's a huge difference for people with disability. They are locked out of even trying to get into the workforce. There's very few people going to give a job on the basis of, I'm totally reliant on you for an income, so you're going to have to pay me whether I'm here or I'm not. And there's very few people who are going to do that. So these days, if you have a disability and you want to go to work, you have to apply to the department. They will reduce your disability by the amount they deem fit. You will lose your medical card. And then when something does go awry, you have to go through the whole process again to get back to where you were. And you know what that's like. That's 100%. A 6-month rolling process. Yeah. It's unreal.
Like, with anything that disabled people do, there's stacks of paperwork. You know, and it's not worth my time getting a minimum wage job, because that's all young people in this country get these days, if they can even get it, you know. And it's not the same minimum wage that it was. It doesn't go as far. It's
nice that we say minimum wage, and we need to change the language to living wage.
Yeah, it's not a livable wage, and it's not worth my time coming off disability to go into that job, because I can't survive with it. That's the thing, like a livable wage. I won't survive on what young people are forced, because I have, you know, I have medicines to pay for. Like, I do have the medical card, but like I still pay like the prescription fee, and, you know, I have to pay for, say, taxis to get to a hospital, or, you know, there's all these hidden costs with disabilities, but they're not accounted for. The cost of living with a disability is not accounted for.
Yeah, oh no, I agree with you completely. And it's not accounted for. There is, I mean, you may have dietary needs. Yeah. As you said, the prescription charges pile up.
Particularly, big time. Yeah. Like, I'm on so many different tablets that I can't even name them all. But
Martin should actually do a
we should do, like, there's these things that people do on YouTube called, like, mukbangs, and it's basically people sit and they eat food and they just talk. We should just like swap like medicines and like just go through and it's like, oh, you're on this too, me too. You know, I think like there's a lot of solidarity between people who, you know, go through that kind of thing, because we get it. Like, other people mightn't understand like the humour or whatever, but like, if you can't joke about these things,
I completely agree with you. And I have to say, when I was doing chemo and we were, you know, and it was like the black hole of Calcutta. Don't get me wrong, it really was. Like back then, it was Beaumont, and it was like, it's redone since, and it's beautiful and it's really nice. But back then, it was the black hole of Calcutta. It was a really dispiriting place to be. But the humour was so dark and so funny. It really was. Like, it was this really, and you know, not everybody was involved in it, but you know, you'd see the same people every day, and the humour was just so dark and so funny. Like,
my friends, I'm very lucky to have found a group of people that are as disgusting as I am. Like, you know, my friends all take turns to be like, okay, who gets Alannah to like get the, you know, get in free to the, or like who's going to get the carers ticket to get into like the cinema for free. And, you know, I'm passed around like an awful lot, but like my privacy and all that is constantly being invaded by the likes of the government. You know, I'm going back to housing, you know, to get on the housing list I need a doctor's letter. I need an OT letter, then I have to, do the whole extensive housing list forms, and they're basically asking me everything but my blood type, which I wouldn't be able to give them. I don't know my blood type, but it's nice to kind of be just nonchalant about the whole thing and be like, do you know what? I'm disabled.
Otherwise you go mad, I'm sure.
Yeah, big time.
Well, I've bad news for you. I actually spoke to somebody this week, and this is an unusual story, who got off the housing list by getting a proper council house.
Can't relate. That's wild.
How long did it take? Go on. How long did it take?
12 years.
Yeah. More. It took 18 years. 18 years on a housing list.
Seems fair.
Yeah.
That's progress.
That's my entire lifespan. Cool, yeah.
But seriously, 18 years.
Can I be really bold though and ask, when you did your TED talk, you talked about being 3 years of age and not disabled.
Yeah.
Do you still remember that?
Yeah, I remember what it was like to run around. I wasn't a permanent wheelchair user until I was 10.
Yeah.
And kind of in the gap between, I started presenting with my symptoms at 5, and because my condition is so rare, I didn't get diagnosed until I was 6.
Okay.
And that was over 10 years ago now. So at the time, there was only 3 people in the country with my condition. And I was the worst one.
Oh, hey.
Because I love to overachieve.
Sorry, I don't know what exactly is your condition.
It's called dermatomyositis. Okay. It's a mouthful and a half. It's basically, it's lupus's ugly cousin that doesn't get invited to parties anymore. And it comes with all these different things. It comes with a skin condition, which is the derma part, the muscle thing. And I decided I was going to get every single possible side effect as well.
Right.
Even the ones that don't actually come with my condition.
Yeah.
I wanted that.
Yeah. No,
I wanted to be as in many bits as I possibly could.
Oh God. So you literally won the disability lottery.
Oh yeah, I am the alpha grip.
Yeah.
How did you find you were mainstream school, of course?
100%.
How did you find?
I went to an all Irish school, so I'm fully fluent in Irish. I went to all Irish primary school, all Irish secondary school, and it was a struggle, big time. For my parents, I obviously didn't go through as much as they would have, trying to fight for a PA, transport, everything. Their lives were all of our lives were turned upside down. As I got sicker, I went from walking everywhere to walking nowhere. My disease progressed very quickly, in a sense that I went from walking to I could be standing and then I'd fall, and then the next week I wouldn't be able to crawl upstairs. Then the next week I was done. It took about six weeks for me to be carried everywhere.
Yeah,
and it was so quick.
Was that quick?
It was so quick. And, I was going back to the doctor.
I'm trying to make a really inappropriate Hobbit joke
Please
now about living underground would be better now.
Yeah, and even Hobbit houses, try and get a wheelchair around those.
Martin, what's it like living as a Hobbit?
I'm from Middle Earth. It's okay.
It's fine.
Big hairy toes.
Can I ask you a question? My experience, and I could be wrong on this, in school, kids, they recognise disability is there, but it's not a separating fact. It's not you're still a kid with other kids.
Yeah.
When does that change? When do you feel, sense, notice the change that kids become adults and their view of disability changes?
Well, I suppose I was sheltered because, we didn't really know what was going on with me, and we didn't know what my body could handle and what it couldn't. And when I was younger, I was quite weak. So it had gotten to the point where the teachers were like, do you know what, it's probably better that maybe, you know, you love to read, so why don't you just stay inside at lunchtime?
Oh, right.
You know, and, you know, kids would be like, oh, I'll stay in with you, or I'll stay in with you, you know, and, you know, passing around obviously started very early because kids didn't want to be outside. So I became an asset at lunchtime. It was great. I was very popular. But it was never the kids that were the problem.
Yes.
It was always the adults. And kind of, as I got older, I suppose I got very lucky, like, with my friends. They always understood, and my teachers were very nice. But once you hit around maybe 14 and, you know, junior disco time starts coming, that's kind of when things change. Like, I never went to junior discos because I was so...
It stopped being cute.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, look at your one, you know, and like, you go from people being like, oh, you know, you're so cute, to, like, grannies, like, praying over you. That still happens. You know, the people randomly approaching you in the street and being like, you know, I'll pray for you, and...
I have to say now, I had a fair bit of that when I was at my cancer scaldiest.
Yeah, like,
I did have a fair bit of that.
Like, especially, I haven't really experienced it when I've travelled, but in Ireland, you know, any kind of illness seems to open you up to the public. You seem to become public property when you're in any way different.
That's actually very true, because I mean, literally, when I look back over my time and I think of how things I've done. I spoke to you briefly about how I patronise people sometimes without meaning to, and having to understand and swallow hard and go, Jesus Christ, Tony, what are you at?
But it's the culture that we grew up in, and it's how society as a whole has seen disabled people. They've seen them as dependents. They haven't seen them as independent human beings. You know, they're either medical equipment, or they need to be protected or fixed. You know, I'm looking for my master's, I'm looking at how disability in film has changed from pre-Holocaust Germany to winning Oscars.
Okay.
And how the Oscar winners still aren't doing it right.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of the wave on how film and society, how they interact with each other. Like, I think that's why kids are so open.
Yeah.
Because you see the likes of Finding Nemo, where, you know, he's a Gabby Finn.
Yeah.
And it's his lucky Finn, and, you know, that's what helps him succeed. You know, and kids now, they see disability in such a positive way. It's like an asset, or it's something that, you know, you should be proud of. And whereas, you know, years ago, people may have grown up with a very different view of what disability was.
Without a doubt they did.
I'm not being bad, but years ago, I'd have said to you, right, off to Lourdes, yeah?
Yeah.
Off to Lourdes.
Do you know what, funnily enough, I was actually dragged to Lourdes.
How Irish, shall we?
Oh, stop. And it has a very active nightlife.
Yes, I'm totally
like, there's pubs everywhere. Like, I hear after the sun goes down again. Oh, that's it. Like, you may as well. It's like Lourdes Vegas. It's great.
Lanzarote in Lourdes. You know?
Exactly. But, like, you know, for some reason, there's this intersection between disability and religion that, you know, as someone who isn't religious at all, for many different reasons, you know, it irks me.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's one of the things that we need to drop as a society. Like, obviously, we need religion out of our schools, out of our hospitals, but we need it off our people. We need it out of our people. We are not, you know, disabled people. We don't want your prayers. You know, it's nice, and, you know, you can tell the difference between someone that's being patronising and someone who's just genuinely being lovely.
Yes.
You know, and you learn, like, what I'm honestly grateful for with my disability is it's taught me how to read people really well. You know, I'm considered like the mother friend, like I'm the one that people come to for advice. You know, because I've learned to navigate people, because I have no choice but to navigate people, because people are constantly in my space. You know, people are constantly looking at my chair and seeing it as an invitation to help, or, you know, and I think that has a lot to do with religion. And, you know, people coming up and being like, you know, oh, you know, I'm praying for you and God bless you. It's like, prayers aren't going to fix my legs.
My sense was, and a lot of people handed me prayers at stages.
Yeah.
And my sense of it was, you know, as you said, you're able to, after a while, you can tell who's genuine. And the ones that are genuine, I just used to feel, well, look, I admire your faith. And thanks for taking the effort.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you have to know the difference between people who do have that faith. And, like, I commend people for having their faith and, you know, holding onto it and everything. But at the same time, there are people who would be like, you know, oh, God bless you, you know.
Yeah, I know.
And you're just like...
I feel like I'm missing out. Like no one ever says prayers for me.
Yeah.
No, they do. They do.
Yeah. Please pray for bankers.
I hope he walks.
Yeah, pray you leave.
Pray he walks under the wheels of that bus.
But you know, I'm just. It's such a unique link.
Yeah,
between
it is. Yeah.
Disability and religion. It's as fascinating as it is irritating.
Yeah.
But it goes back to that institutionalized, that disability was institutionalized, and deliberately so. And there is, it's even deeper ingrained than that. There was a psyche back in, and I know from talking to my parents about this in the 50s and 60s, 40s, 50s and 60s in Ireland, where disability, any kind of disability, was something shameful. Mm-hmm. And we spoke about this the other night. And that was the government psyche, was to hide it away.
And if you remember in the large families, as that my dad had a large family, my mum had a large family, and in the family, if someone had a disability, quite often it was, you didn't talk about it.
Yes.
You didn't talk about
exactly.
it. And it was literally, I could be 6 years old walking into my grandparents and all of a sudden the voices go like this.
Yeah.
And, you know, and now, I think we've come on from there, but I think what we haven't seen is, and it's a lack of ambition and a lack of understanding from people who are lucky to walk around the world freely. We don't take a minute and step out and see what it's like. You know?
Yeah.
I think you're right about young people, and I think you're dead right. They're far more inclusive. They're far more clued in than I was at their age. They're far nicer.
Yeah.
In general, they're far nicer.
Can I say something? Yeah. The idea of calling people snowflakes for actually being nice people is ridiculous.
They're kind of decent kids, and the problem doesn't lie with them. The problem doesn't really lie with them, and I don't think it lies with the wider community. I think the government is, and it doesn't matter whether it's Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael, they're so embedded in their pasts that they're unable to be inclusive. They're just simply unable to be inclusive. It's not in their interests to be inclusive. It doesn't get them votes to be inclusive. But I think the wider public would embrace it very quickly. Yeah,
like blue shirts will use disability come election time, and then you'll never hear from them again. You know, whereas, you know, you look, I could pass like kids on the street and, you know, they'd be like, well, mommy, like, they're in a wheelchair, and the mothers or the fathers will be like, you know, don't say that. You know, like, I love when kids come up to me and they're like, oh, like, my granny uses a wheelchair, you know, my friend, you know, broke her leg and she was on crutches. Like, I love that. I live for that. Because I have 2 smaller siblings at home, and, like, I'd hate for them to think that disability isn't something that you shouldn't talk about.
Well, I kind of think it's difficult with, you know, kids, particularly kids under 10 years of age. They're very inquisitive.
Yeah.
I generally don't think there's any badness in kids when they ask a question. I generally don't.
My youngest nearly accosted you when she met.
It's so true. She was so excited. She was like, "Hi, how are you?"
I have a friend called Alannah.
Yeah. Oh, and she was the biggest dote. Like, I love when kids are just so excited by life, and, you know, they see something different.
Yes.
And it's not a scary different. They just want to know every single thing about it. And, like, I love talking about myself, that's why I'm here. So, like, as many questions as I, will ask. Like, I love answering questions. Like, I think as well it comes with having a rare illness. Like, I used to be like the talk of the ward when like medical student season would come around. We used to call it hunting season because like the regulars, because like you'd come in and you'd get different.
Look at Martin's face.
I laugh because I was in the hospital. I got to the stage where anybody in a white coat, I would just take off my clothes.
Yeah, it gets in serious trouble sometimes, doesn't it?
Frighten the shit out of the milkman.
I get mad here and let you compare horror stories.
No, but like medical students, they'd always be so ready to study me like some kind of specimen.
Yeah.
And I used to get paid for it in like HMV vouchers. Like, do you remember HMV?
Yeah.
And I'm just so used to answering questions that I've come to love it.
But you're the most together 21-year-old. It's unbelievable.
That's the childhood trauma.
But I'm not doubting that it is, because you are so together, able to speak about it and actually put it together. At 21,
I have 6. I have a daughter who turns 21 in a couple of weeks, and there's actually no difference whatsoever in the way your characters, the way you go. Both the exact same. And I think that's what people need to embrace. Is that there just isn't a difference.
I'll tell you the difference, Alannah. You're taller than his 21-year-old.
Anybody in my house.
No, I know we've spoken about your masters around how cinema and people with disabilities. Do you hope to do more work in filmmaking? And
yeah, like I'd love to. Like, I made a documentary in second year about kind of disability in Irish film and kind of how it's represented both on screen and behind the camera, because you don't get a whole lot of disabled filmmakers. Like, we had the wonderful Simon Fitzmaurice, who passed away last year, the year before, and we have the amazing Paddy Slattery, who just finished his first feature, who I interviewed for the doc. And, when I was making that documentary, I had to breeze what I was doing. Mm-hmm. I watched a few Michael Moore films,
right?
Because that's obviously where everyone starts with documentary. And I just saw him kind of going around with a camera and just having the chats and just recording everything. I was like, oh yeah, we'll do that. And I says, right, what do I know? I know how to speak Irish and I know being disabled.
Right.
So it's something that I have a bit of experience in, and, I says, right, sure, I'll combine my degree with my lived experience. And I interviewed Paddy Slattery. I interviewed one of my lecturers who worked in film. And then I interviewed a friend of mine who, had a disability, and then I done a bit as well because, obviously that's obviously a bit
lived experience. Yeah.
And it's important to put disabled stories in the hands of disabled people. And I'd like to kind of keep going on that, because obviously we talked about institutionalization. You're not going to get a primetime documentary on that. You're just not going to see it. I didn't know about it until I started getting involved with disability. And it seems like this underground, we don't talk about it didn't happen thing. So I'd like to, pick at that.
It's kind of it's a secret history of Ireland.
Yeah.
It is a secret, and the secret history of Ireland is wow. It's just wow.
And it's dark and it's ridiculous and and it shouldn't have happened, but more people need to know about it, like outside the disabled people. Like, if I go up to someone and be like, hey, did you know that disabled people were kept in homes and, were completely isolated from their family? They'd be like, what?
Yeah, no, you're right. This dark history, as Martin said, this trauma, this thing that and I'm sorry, but even the more and more, if you see the studies that come out now, the traumas take 3 generations.
Like Ireland loves to bury its secrets.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And who well hates to dig them up.
Yeah, so more people need to go dig it. And it's more than disabled people. Like, obviously, disabled people should be the ones to tell those stories. But at the same time, there needs to be a wider social awareness of disability issues. You know, and again, bringing it back to the platforming, like platform disabled people, invite them to your conferences, invite them on your podcasts, you know, just let them speak and let them be heard and let them be seen, you know, because we're not invisible. We're 13% of the population, and you won't see a panel at a conference most of the time with an openly disabled.
Well, you won't get 13% representation.
No, like employment is less than 8%. We can't get houses. We can't get jobs. You know, it's less than 3% of students with disabilities go on to postgrad. You know.
Well, the more I see of the world moving there, and it's not moving, it's entrenched in neoliberalism, particularly in this country, the more I see that it's kind of very Dickensian in its view to society. Very, very Dickensian. Somebody has to say at some stage, stop, we need to start going back to well, not going back, we were never really there, but we need to move forward we need an all-inclusive society.
We need a rights-based society.
Yeah.
And if you go to move from a rights-based society to from what we have now, which is, we spoke at the beginning about consumerism and individualism and ultimately capitalism, again, there is a room for markets, there's a room for profits. It's okay to make money. It's not the end of the world, but you do need to actually have that cannot impinge on people's basic rights. And that's where the balance is. Where we're with the scales at the moment are tipped fully. As we know, you only have to look at the arguments that we're having currently about AIB not having to pay tax for 20 years, you know, these sort of things that are out there in the public domain that the people are waking up to. I think they're waking up to when they're starting to understand that doesn't make sense. You know, the argument that we saw about was it JP McManus and 3.2 million to the GAA. Yeah. Now, again, he did, this gesture is what he done. He lives in Switzerland. That's his right to do that. But does that morally mean that's right? No. You know.
And I think as well, we need to stop stigmatising people that do talk about these things. Like I had an experience at a gig where I paid 100 quid for tickets, and the way that the wheelchair area was designed, when people stood up, I couldn't see anything.
God.
And like it had happened before a few times, and I just decided this was it. And I drafted a letter and I sent it to every single radio station, newspaper. Like, I was the absolute scourge of the country for a good week or two. But I went on to say, like, phone-in shows to talk about it, and the amount of people that came at me, like, aggressively came at me and was like, you know, you're a freeloader, you're looking for, you know, stuff, and you're looking for sympathy. One woman said I had a chip on my shoulder, you know, and, you know, it seems to be this argument that people have that, you know, we feel entitled to these things, you know, as if they shouldn't just be given, like, I'm a consumer, you know, I paid for those tickets. Like, what I went to do was see Bruno Mars. What I saw was this horrific couple in matching denim shirts that just, like, I think that was more what I was offended about. That I had to look at two matching denim shirts in front of me.
Double denim.
Yeah, just awful.
But that tone of, oh, you're looking for something, nothing, that starts at the top.
Yeah. And, you know, we saw in the doll, Leo Varadkar made a lovely little slip up there.
Didn't he just?
And, you know, that's how he thinks.
If Freud was sitting here today, he'd have just went,
But it's not, Leo is a product of
privilege.
Yeah.
Well, no, of that party. That's historically the way they have done it.
You know, his family weren't of that party. He's a product of privilege that adopted that party, Martin.
I know. But once you're in that party, that's where you are. Okay,
I'm going to share the story that Vincent Brown told the other night. Maybe I shouldn't, but he told it in a public place. But he spoke about talking to Leo Varadkar, and Leo talking about this idea of self-determination. And what he said was, Leo Varadkar said that his parents had put on weight as they'd gotten older, and that Leo was prone to putting on weight, but because he'd been up early that morning and been to the gym, that he does not put on weight. And that is the difference between me, as Leo put it, about the difference between him and the people who have nothing. That he goes to the gym And it was this kind of idea that, like, wow, the imbalance there of what he sees. As Martin, you always say, if life was a 100-metre dash,
he starts 1 metre from the finish line.
Yeah.
And he's claiming victory.
Yeah.
Whereas, we do need to break that
that is entitlement. That is the very nature of entitlement, is that you are so entitled. You are blind to your own entitlement. And it's not even blind. It's denying your own entitlement. You know it exists, but you will deny it.
You're a spin reverse snob.
No, but what we need to do is we need to put those minorities on a big stage. The stage that the politicians took, you know, when the repeal movement went through, when they put all those politicians up while the people that went canvassing, while people like me who were spat on, you know, while we stood, sat, whatever, in the crowd while they claimed victory. Like, we need to put disabled people on stages, we need to put migrants on stages, we need to put homeless people on stages. Everyone that has ever been discriminated against by this country, by this system, by this government, we need to put them out there, platform them, deplatform our government, dismantle the government.
Okay, and I think that's where we'll...
I agree. And what you said about being on podcasts, being on platforms, being on TV, being involved.
Yeah.
So you are involved.
Hire disabled people.
Absolutely. That's it. Open your eyes, because, you know, this is only by doing that can we actually move towards a rights-based society. Alannah, it's been a great pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
It's
been a great chat. Thank you.
Listen, honestly, I know, and people don't know, they won't get it. You went through a lot to even just get here today, so it's really appreciated, and we think I'm really super impressed by you as a person and as a voice, an advocate. Listen, folks, we're now 101.
This is 101. Room 101.
Is this the part where you throw me in the bin?
What is it? War is peace. No, listen, guys, thanks for listening. We really appreciate all the feedback. Do stick with us. We're trying to.
And don't forget, next week we have Paddy Cosgrove and
PJ Drudy.
That's right, PJ Drudy.
Trinity Professor PJ Drudy. And I tell you, he's going to be a get. I'm really looking forward to talking to this man. He's a bit of a genius. Talk to you all soon, folks. Take care. Bye bye.